Allison Hayes has been on the IU campus throughout the day and has more on this still developing situation from Bloomington.
Rick, the timing could not have been more coincidental. Athletic Director Fred Glass was actually here in Assembly Hall when the metal piece fell from the ceiling. He was here with a team of key members from engineering and administration for a planned renovation meeting. I spoke with Glass about the events of the day and where the team goes from here.
We were in our first meeting for the major renovations that we're planning for Assembly Hall. So we had the chief engineer of the university, the chief architect from the university, the chief external architect, chief external engineer meeting at 2:30 right when this happened, and we heard about it and came out, and through no smartness by us, fortunately had a bunch of people around that could really make the decision. So it made the decision-making process more rapid and more comprehensive, and so within an hour we were able to make the judgment that we couldn't have the game tonight based upon the advice from the engineer, and made all the appropriate contacts, and then publicly announced about 10 to 4 that the game was going to be canceled.
What actually did happen? What was it that fell, and how is it connected with the building? Is there structural damage? Is there concerns about the roof and safety moving here forward?
What happened is it's like fleshing or a fascia board, but it's steel in a piece about 8 feet long and about a foot deep that weighs about 50 pounds. Went right down into the bowl, and it was pretty scary to see the video of that. Our preliminary assessment from the engineers who've now had a chance to be on the roof, both the external engineers and the internal engineers, is that at the bottom of a slope, with all this snow and ice we've had, it collected in an unusual way and essentially pushed that piece of metal out. It wasn't a corrosive piece. It wasn't over time. It was apparently a traumatic event of that ice pushing up against it. So we think it's an issue that's limited to that one piece of steel in the 4 corners of the Assembly Hall, one of which has fallen down already. So we're going to comprehensively look at all that facial steel, if you will, but we think it's going to be limited to those panels. And our preliminary assessment of how to fix it is just to take the panels off, because they're not structural, they're cosmetic, and painted 2x4s will work just as well.
Now, you did say that the women's game against Michigan will go on as scheduled. What does it look like for the future of the Iowa-Indiana men's game?
Well, the women's game can go forward because our capacity is less, and we can have people sit away from the sides, and the engineers specifically okayed that. So it's really a matter of capacity. And I talked to Dave Brandon, the AD from Michigan, and they're sending their team on down, and we will have that game as scheduled. Iowa, as you know, Allison, under Big Ten rules, there's 72 hours for the 2 teams to agree on a new time. New date. Those conversations are occurring. If we can't agree within 72 hours, and the Big Ten Conference steps in and schedules the game, but we're very optimistic, primarily because our schedule sequence mimics Iowa's in a positive way, that we'll find a window that'll work for both schools back here at Assembly Hall.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. Go ahead and send it back to the studio in Chicago.